I just got off the train in downtown Charlotte, headed into work at what is known as the Bank of America campus, which is including of the Bank of America Tower, the tallest skyscraper, and basically marks the center of the city of Charlotte. Multiple other buildings that are associated with Bank of America. And this downtown urban area has everything you could possibly want. They've got stadiums, restaurants, obviously parking garages, theaters. One thing they don't have are DC fast chargers. And the reason they don't have DC fast chargers in downtown areas like this typically is because if you pick up the phone and you're a CPO and you're trying to get power delivered, the power company says, sure, no problem. It'll be like 3 years and $500,000. Also, there's a very difficult problem with the space in order to build out electric vehicle charging stations. But CPO Gravity has figured out how to penetrate urbanized downtown areas. Specifically, Manhattan is their first station, and they do so with the fastest DC fast chargers currently in the United States, UL listed at 500 kilowatts. That's 1,000 volts, 500 amps, UL listed. Also, even more impressively, these DC fast chargers that are the fastest in North America are delivered without transformers. They use something called a switching matrix in order to draw from existing power on the block and dynamically reallocate on a second by second basis in order to short circuit the need for ordering power from the power company. They just use existing power and thereby they solve the problem. It almost sounds too good to be true, but wait, there's more. They just announced this week that they are beginning their expansion. The city of Los Angeles is getting not two, but 8 brand new gravity stations. Let's get into it.
Okay, before I get started here, I want to talk about the map because the press release specifically says Gravity brings 5-minute charging to LA. One of the locations, Brentwood, is a little bit ambiguous because when you look up on Google Brentwood, California, it puts you outside of San Jose and west of Sacramento in the town of Brentwood. But there's also a neighborhood in the greater Los Angeles area called Brentwood. So I'm going to assume that specific PIP is the one located in the Los Angeles area. So let's look at this map, and 8 locations spread pretty evenly around the greater Los Angeles area. I like the distribution spacing of these stations, getting basically a circle around the greater Los Angeles area, as you can see. And let's quickly name off the locations. East Palisade, Brentwood, Pacific Palisade, the place that was having a difficult time as of late, Huntington Beach, Long Beach, Manhattan Beach, North Hills, and Thousand Oaks. Okay, so California is notorious for being very difficult in order to spin up electric vehicle charging stations in any reasonable amount of time. In fact, one station by EVgo came to my attention that had taken over 2 years in order to commission. It's still not open as far as I know. There's weeds growing up around it, and it's because the red tape associated with the business license and the utility delivery, the energizing of this station, and final commissioning all are very long, arduous processes. But it may be that Gravity is able to succeed with speed where others are not, and it has to do with how their technology is delivered. And let's quickly touch on that. There's something called a distributed energy access point. When you put that into an acronym, it's called a DEAP. And DEAPs are very commonly referred to in Gravity terms. And what a DEAP is kind of like a dispenser in EV terms. It's just a box that the cable runs into. There's not a lot of intelligence in those DEAPs. They're just connected back to what are known as the switching matrices, where the actual power is distributed from. Now, there is very well thought out cable management in Gravity stations. The one in Manhattan has an overhead retractable cable management system, and there's also curbside locations that have like articulating arms that come down and help swivel the cable to either side of the vehicle that is in the stall. So they are very well thought out cable management for tight, urbanized locations. That's their claim to fame. And the specific thing about the deeps that are in use in Manhattan that is unique is not only the very deliberately thought out cable management system, but it's the fact that they are UL listed at 500 kilowatts continuous. And apparently they're able to beat records for fastest ever charging speeds. That was specifically mentioned in this press release. So these are the fastest chargers available in North America, and lightning fast, very effective cable management, able to be deployed into urbanized, densely populated areas. The most significant thing, though, is how these deeps pull their power from the switching matrices without a transformer by utilizing existing power in a given location by hooking into the smart meters and always staying below what is available for the tenants in the immediate vicinity versus what they're currently drawing. So let's just say there's a megawatt of power, just for round numbers. There's a megawatt of power at a given location, and apparently on a second-by-second basis, these switching matrices judge using smart meter hooks how much is getting used by the tenants that are sharing the power being delivered to that location, and gravity just takes additional capacity and ensures that the tenants are not affected. So apparently there's plenty of extra capacity at these locations that you don't have to put in a new transformer for. You just look at the smart meters and say how much is going to this tenant, how much is going to that tenant, and there's 40% left that I could use for my electric vehicle chargers, and then you always stay below capacity and below the utilization of the tenants. And with that model, which is just incredibly intelligent, they're able to distribute power in these deeps at 500 kilowatts continuous to the cars without deploying a transformer, which is truly a remarkable situation, because we all know that very typically the longest delay time in any electric vehicle charging station build is the delivery of the energy. And in this case, they're capitalizing on energy that already exists at these locations. The founder and CEO, Moshe Cohen, is said to have been helped with seed money by Google, but it's not like this is a Google program. Google financing just provided some seed capital in order to help with the incubation period. But there is some affiliation with Google, and it's unclear exactly what the future holds with that partnership. Their hardware and their software are both developed in-house. That's what's known as a full stack approach to providing a charging station. And the only other company that does a similar type of approach is Tesla. The Tesla Supercharger team owns their software stack and they own their hardware stack. They build their own hardware and they author their own software. In the exact same way, Gravity builds their own hardware. Those deeps are manufactured by Gravity. The switching matrices are manufactured by Gravity, and their software is authored by them. Same thing as the Tesla Supercharger. And apparently that is where they're able to have a significant and noticeable spike in reliability, similar to the Tesla Supercharger. You have, if you're trying to use a cafeteria approach to collecting hardware, putting it in a box, and then providing a service in that way by commercial off-the-shelf solutions, and you just integrate them all into a final product, that's where you typically run into problems. And that's normally what happens outside of Tesla Supercharger stations, is the components that are inside those electric vehicle chargers are normally sourced from multiple different places, and then you have all these complexities with the integration. Gravity separates themselves by that, by having all the hardware architected and built in-house, and also all the software authored and built in-house, making it a what's known as a full stack solution. The cable managements, as I mentioned, are purpose built, and apparently they have the ability to spike to 700 amps. So, although they could do 500 continuous, they could actually spike to 700, and I think perhaps 800 as well. It's just the UL listing is 500 continuous. So, 500 kilowatts. So, it's 1,000 volts, 500 amps. So, that's 500 kilowatts. But you need a 1,000-volt car in order to do that, which is pretty rare, if not impossible. I think the Lucid Gravity, or I'm sorry, the Lucid Air is one of the ones that can do that, and perhaps the Gravity, and a few others coming online. So you need a specialty car in order to take advantage of that. But at least the capacity for high throughput is in existence. However, the curbside deeps, which are smaller form factor, put up on a pole 8 feet off the ground with the articulating arm cable management that both comes down and swings to either side, are said to be 200 kilowatt continuous with the ability to burst to 500 kilowatts. But as I said, the primary deeps are 500 kilowatts continuous with burst to 750. So we're unsure. Let's take a quick look at the station rendering that was released with the press release. I see articulating arms, and I see deeps 5 or a good ways off the ground. I would say that's 8 feet off the ground. So those kind of look like the curbside deeps. So there's a little bit of ambiguity if we're looking at 200 kilowatt charging or 500 kilowatt charging. But I'm unsure. The reason this is unclear is because the title of the press release says Gravity brings 5-minute charging to LA, which would mean the 500 kilowatt chargers, not the slower 200 kilowatts. You can't get a 5-minute charge on 200 kilowatts. You need a 500 kilowatt in order to get that 5-minute charge. So although the rendering seems to show the curbside deeps, I question if those are not the big boy ones that are just being used with a different form of cable management. And I think the cable management might not be tied to whether it's a curbside deep or a primary deep. I think that cable management is determined on whether or not you're inside a parking garage or outside in parking spaces in a parking lot. I think that might be the determining factor, that the articulating arm and the deep being suspended on a pole is not necessarily indication of it being a curbside deep. So, still some questions to be answered here. And once again, how this works is a switching matrix is deployed to support a charging station, and it pulls power from an entire block, an entire city block, and all the tenants that are there. Typically, that's in a major metropolitan area how power is delivered, and then divvied up among smart meters to individual tenants from a single transformer. But very often those transformers are deployed with much excess capacity, and if you're not in the very rare time where heavy utilization is necessary, and from what I understand that only happens like 1 or 2% of the time throughout a given year, there's a ton of excess capacity that could be utilized and diverted over to the electric vehicle charging station, negating the need in order to put in a transformer in order to light your electric vehicle charging site. Truly a magnificent solution. And let's see what else. The cables apparently are able to support the 500 amps continuous because they are both liquid and mineral oil cooled. So although they can do 500 continuous with that type of cable solution, they're able to do bursts up to 750 amps. So 1,000 volts, 750 amps gets you to 750 kilowatts. These are the fastest in North America. We all see what's coming out of China. And right now, this is the best answer for what the United States has in technology for the Chinese electric vehicle explosion that's going on over there. And we all see the videos. It's very exciting what's coming out of China. But this technology is a whole different generation up, because the ability to drop in charging solutions in locations without the need to have a new transformer delivered is going to be game changing. There's just no way around that. This is very likely going to pick up, because not only is it the advantageous benefit of being able to negate the need to call the power company in order to have power delivered, think of the cost savings of not having to pay for a site upgrade and have new power delivered. That's non-reoccurring cost to turn up a site that is not present. Basically, you pay for all the electric vehicle charging hardware with that one that one spreadsheet line item being taken off. It's truly remarkable. This stuff is, I'm sure, not going to be only released in Los Angeles. What I suspect is that Los Angeles is phase one of their rollout, and very likely, if I was listening to the sales pitch from these people, I'd be leery because they're a relatively new company, but man, do the fundamentals make sense. This is really some impressive things. And like I said, they are full stack. They build their own hardware and they author their own software. So the good people of Los Angeles have a brand new CPO coming to their neighborhoods. 8 gravity stations coming soon to neighborhoods in Los Angeles, California. Thanks for watching.